Billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Imam Islamic Center, and as always, it's a privilege and honor and a pleasure to host you here this afternoon for a change of this evening, and especially on this occasion, which in my opinion is one of, if not the greatest day in the Shia calendar. Okay, in God's opinion, all right, in God's opinion, according to Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, one of, if not the greatest event, the greatest, without doubt. There we go. Okay, no problem. We'll leave the narrations to you, Sheikhna. Inshallah, you can enlighten us on the Muslim calendar. And of course, I'm talking about the occasion of Ghadeer Kum, or the event that occurred at the location of Ghadeer Kum, where the Holy Prophet of Islam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, under divine decree, appointed Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam as his rightful successor, as the guardian of the religion of Islam. Please, let's offer our congratulations for this occasion, and of course the birthday celebration of Imam Musa al-Kadhem alayhi salam, with the best and the warmest of our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I can see while there's only a few people in the hall so far, not a few, but inshallah enough to make a good start. We do have barbecue and snacks and refreshments and cakes and all sorts of wonderful things outside. So inshallah we'll get on with the program, and so we can get outside and satisfy not just our spiritual selves, but our physical stomach selves as well. As we do with every program, let's begin with recitation of the Holy Qur'an. And today we have the magnificent voice and the magnificent brother Ali Merhi, who we welcome with the best of our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين أحصى لما لبثوا أمدا. نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى. وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا هؤلاء قوم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة لولا يأتون عليهم بسلطان بين فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا وإذ اعتزلتموهم وما يعبدون إلا الله فأووا إلى الكهف ينشر لكم ربكم من رحمته ويهيئ لكم من أمركم مرفقا وترى الشمس إذا طلعت تزاور عن كهفهم ذات اليمين وإذا غربت تقرضهم ذات الشمال وهم في فجوة منه ذلك من آيات الله من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وتحسبهم أيقاظا وهم رقود ونقلبهم ذات اليمين وذات الشمال وكلبهم باسط ذراعيه بالوصيد لو اطلعت عليهم لوليت منهم فرارا ولملئت منهم رعبا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سلام على آل ياسين السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آياته السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقهم. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته. السلام عليك يا تالي كتاب الله وترجمانه. السلام عليك في آناء ليلك وأطراف نهارك. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده. السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه. السلام عليك أيها العلم المنصوب والعلم المصبوب والغوث والرحمة الواسعة وعدا غير مكذوب. السلام عليك حين تكون. السلام عليك حين تقود. السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين. السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنت. السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد. السلام عليك حين تهلل وتكبر. السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر. السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي. السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى. السلام عليك أيها الإمام المامون. السلام عليك أيها المقدم المامون. السلام عليك بجوامع السلام. أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله. وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليا أمير المؤمنين حجته والحسن حجته والحسين حجته وعلي بن الحسين حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وجعفر بن محمد حجته وموسى بن جعفر حجته وعلي بن موسى حجته ومحمد بن علي حجته وعلي بن محمد حجته والحسن بن علي حجته. وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا وأن الموت حق وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق. وأشهد أن النشر حق والبعث حق وأن الصراط حق والمرصاد حق والميزان حق والحشر حق والحساب حق والجنة والنار حق والوعد والوعيد بهما حق. يا مولاي شقيا من خالفكم وسعيدا من أطاعكم فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك. فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما استختموه والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه. فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم آمين آمين. صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan, thank you very much, Brother Ali. As always, a pleasure to have you up, and inshallah we'll have you more of you during Muharram as well. Which reminds me that the Muharram programs inshallah will start from this coming Saturday evening. So we're expecting the first night of Muharram to be on Saturday evening. All of our programs will commence on Saturday evening, beginning with the following agenda. Inshallah at 6:30 p.m. there will be an early program, mainly geared towards the youth and the children, especially those who can't stay late. But everybody's welcome to join that program, inshallah. So it'll be a brief program, short lecture, short majlis, and a bit of latam or sinazani. And then we'll finish off. And then at 7:30 p.m., inshallah, we'll have the beginning of the main program, which commences with Ziyarat Ashura, Qur'an, the main lecture, and finishing off with latam and sinazani, inshallah. So that's the program for Muharram. The main parts of it anyway. And in addition to that, during the first week of Muharram, starting with the 1st of August and running for that entire week, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, we will be holding a special program for ladies only. And that program is titled How to Raise Children from the Perspective of the Holy Qur'an. And that is a program for all mums-to-be. Any of the ladies who are interested in joining that program, you are more than welcome to. All of these posters and things, inshallah, will be released either tonight or tomorrow morning. So all of that information will be with you shortly. There are 2 sessions, so you may join the first or the second session. Monday, Tuesday is the first session. Wednesday, Thursday is the same session, which is a repeat of the first session. So whichever days you can make it, you can join in. And there will be sign up and things like that so that we can cater for those who are attending. We are doing our best to include childcare for those programs as well. So those who have young children who need care and whatnot, we're doing our best to cater for that. Look out for the poster and use the link to find out more information. As well as that, inshallah, on beginning from even now, if you're really keen, we're running a program for fundraising for the Imam Hussein Islamic Center, and that is we've called this the 72 Shuhada of Karbala fundraising program, and that involves anybody who signs up for that. It is the requirement is $72 per month for 1 year. So in honor of the 72 Shuhada, it's $72 per month for 1 year in support of the Imam Hussein Islamic Center, so that we can inshallah keep delivering and providing programs such as this one for everybody in the community. For most, if not all of those nights, I believe we do have sign language on Auslan interpretation. So if you know anybody who is keen on accessing that facility, please let them know about these programs. Share the posters around once they are sent out, and inshallah we will see you from Saturday night. We have a guest speaker coming from overseas, inshallah. We're just finalizing, just working through those last tiny little details. So as much as I would like to give you more detail, at the moment I can't. I don't want to preempt anything, but inshallah once the Sheikh arrives, you will, I have no doubt that the lectures will be fantastic, at least as well as what we hear from Sheikh Mohammed and our other esteemed scholars and guests. But I'm sure that you will enjoy the programs that we hold, of course, in commemoration of the tragic events of Karbala and in honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last couple of quick things. All children ages 4 to 13, there are classes for you upstairs. So that's boys, girls, ages 4 to 13. Please head on upstairs so that you can join the classes. That includes you and your yellow jacket friend next to you with a big M. Yes, I'm talking to you. Yeah. See, you got a great brother there. He's going to lead you upstairs. How good is that? That's awesome. All right. See, now you've got some followers with you too. That's great. Excellent. So ages 4 to 13 upstairs. Inshallah, after the program, we'll get you guys back downstairs. You can join in the Kahoot. You can join in the programs and everything as well as we progress through this afternoon. And of course, we're progressing to two main things. One is, of course, having a great time during your celebration. And of course, then afterwards, filling our stomachs with the fantastic food that's outside, which you can smell and is making me very hungry already. Can I ask those brothers who are sitting near the entrance just to move forward and into the hall a little bit? Because there are brothers and sisters who are still coming in. So please move forwards and into the hall. Same with the ladies. Please do your best not to block the entrance and keep a clear pathway for everybody to come in and out. I know that I'm forgetting one announcement, so just bear with me for just a second. No, I think that's everything, and I'm sure you've had enough of me being up on the stage, except for me to say two things. One of them is that today we are celebrating for one of the days of the year that I enjoy the most. The first one is the 15th of Shaban, the birth anniversary of our 12th Holy Imam, Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Inshallah, may Allah hasten his return to us. And second of all, where it all started from, which is the appointment of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib as the successor of the Holy Prophet of Islam. And inshallah, once again, we offer all of our congratulations to each other and the entire Muslim Ummah with the warmest of our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajum. And on that note, Sheikh Mohammed, if I can trouble you for your speech this afternoon, please. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله محمد تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. It's been almost 1,450 years since this event has taken place, and yet people still consider it to be a historical event, an event that took place and just passed like a point in history. On this date, the Prophet received the message. On this date, the Prophet was in Uhud. On this date, the Prophet did his hijrah, and so on and so forth. All the dates that pass, they bear significance. But two dates and are both present in Ashhur al-Hurum bear the greatest significance. And when I say the greatest significance, without these two dates, we would have nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. One is what would announce the news of what mankind was promised and would be given, and the other would be the maintenance for this announcement. The first, in Rajab, which is a month that's of Ashhur al-Hurum, where it's forbidden for us to engage in battle, and this sacred month was al-Ba'tha, which is the deliverance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, salli ala Muhammad wa alihi, where Allah said to His Messenger, now's the time for you to announce this religion. And the second, also in another month that is of Ashhur al-Hurum, in Dhul Hijjah, is the fulfillment of this message. And this is the day of Ghadir. And there is no ambiguity whatsoever with its position of it being the greatest Eid. Nothing even holds a candle to the day of Ghadir. Nothing even comes close. Not Yawm al-Jum'ah, not Yawm al-Fitr, not even the great Eid, Eid al-Adha, hold a candle to the day of Ghadir. See, the fact we forgot this day, and I'm not talking about the general Muslims, even the followers of Ahlul Bayt, don't give it that same value it should be given. The day of Ghadir, we don't gather in the mornings on that day because of the value of it on that day. And what should take place on that day, where the sermon of the messenger should be read. You know, where we read on the day of Ashura, we read Maqtal Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. On the day of Ghadir, we should read the sermon of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And the story should be given so much significance. Because the spread of Islam and this distorted version that has spread throughout this world is because of the negation and the forgetfulness of people and the reluctance for them to speak about this with awe. And this is what has left this distorted Islam and the defamation of Muslims, the way the Muslims are seen, and it has allowed the spread of atheism. And not only if you think about distortion, no. If you take a look at there are several factors. For example, have you noticed that the last census that was taken in Australia, we had a great number of what? Of atheists. It went up to, I think it was 33.8%. And they weren't really atheists. The atheists actually did a movement, and they said to anyone that isn't religious, you know how you got people you go to school with, they don't fast, they don't pray, but they're Muslims. But if you're not a practicing person, write no religion. So we can have this movement. So even Christians and Muslims that were non-practicing would write no religion. And this would increase their numbers. But what is the thing that has caused an exodus for people to move from religion into non-belief is the distortion in religion. If you take a look at what happened with the Catholic Church, all these years and all the accusations within the actual church and the cover-ups and the teachings that didn't make sense made people flee from the religion. Likewise, in Islam, because sometimes people go, oh my God, they've drawn pictures of the Prophet. When I was a child, I remember when they came, they came in and they came to our house and they were showing my father the satanic verses Salman Rushdie had written. And I always said, I'm going to read this book because I want to know what's in it. When I read this book and I said, wow, this isn't different, because I had studied Sahih Bukhari. I said, it's no different to Sahih Bukhari. Salman Rushdie didn't really do anything. He just made a satire of Sahih Bukhari. And people get offended to this, that's their prerogative. This is a fact. That's all it was. It was a satire of what he had read in the narrations. And this is the problem. There's a distorted Islam because the day of Ghadir and was forgotten. See, how can I follow a religion that gives homage to not only fallible men, but the most despicable men and most despised men in the history? Every religion's the same. Is the same with this. This is the crime they commit. For example, if you look at Christianity, the first martyr in Christianity was who? Saint Stephen. Stephen was an 18-year-old man and he was killed. First man to be killed for his belief in Christ. Christianity wasn't a religion then. It became a religion 400 years later. At that time, it was the actually believers. So Stephen was a believer in Christ and he was killed. Who killed Saint Stephen, as they call him? Have a guess. Anyone have a guess? Paul the Apostle. Saint Paul, the central figure in Christianity, murdered Stephen. And then he became the ultimate figure in Christianity. See the tradition we have here? Then you look at the figureheads of Islam. When we do Layal al-Fatimiyya, we remember the martyrdom of Fatima Zahra, the same figures that are venerated in Islam are the ones that attacked and were the direct cause of the martyrdom of Fatima alayhi salam. So you see how the system works? The more damage you do to the religion, the higher your position is elevated. And when people study, then they say, hold on, all this stuff I've been researching all my life, kidhab, it's all lies. Let me go back to, let's see, let me check some Darwinian text or something. Let's find an alternative. Let's find something else. Let's turn to other than religion altogether. Look at Wahhabism and the terror it's inflicted upon humanity. This is a branch of this Islam. When we look at the event of Ghadir, many a time you see a lecturer get up and they will talk about what? They will talk about, did the event take place or not? I find this is, there's no reason to do this. Why? Because no one denies it. In fact, where did the event take place? Here's a question. Where did the event take place? Do you notice everyone says what? Ghadir Khom. It didn't take place in Ghadir Khom. It took place in a place called Khom. We call it Ghadir because Ghadir means what? Oasis. It was in the oasis of Khom. And this is how definite the event is. We call it oasis. Because there's that many, what's the plural of oasis? Is it oases or is it oasis? There would be oases. Huh? I don't know. But if you look at, it's oases or oases? I don't know. But if you look at all the oases, it probably is oases. I don't know. That we see, none of them are called except by the city they're at, but the place where this event took place is called Oasis. It's called Ghadir. Isn't that amazing? Everyone knows. You mention Ghadir, they all know. All the scholars know this. More than 100 Sahabi have narrated this event. Different Sahaba. More than 100. And there's unanimity in this. You cannot sit there and say someone doesn't believe in this. What took place? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi was in Hajj. They call it Hajjatul Wada, the farewell pilgrimage. Some say it was the only pilgrimage that the Prophet performed. Others say, the narrations say, the Prophet did 20 pilgrimages mustatiran, in secret. So there is conflict. Let's say it was the only pilgrimage, for example, for our matter. When he left, the Prophet obviously with his knowledge knew his days were numbered. So he left Mecca and headed towards Medina, in that direction. Before we go down this path, I want you to know that it wasn't a one-off thing. It's not like the Prophet one day said, listen, let me tell people about this. This is something that's always been mentioned. When God Almighty said to the Prophet, when you first give the deliverance, he said, inform your nearest of kin about the fact that you're a prophet. The first seating he had, what did he say? He said, who will be my successor and vicegerent, and who will carry this message with me? And a young 10-year-old Ali ibn Abi Talib said, Ana ya Rasulullah. I will be the one that carries. So from the very beginning, Rasulullah would make it apparent. Every event that took place, he'd give the standard to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar, Hunayn, wherever you want, Ali was a standard bearer. And there's many skirmishes and battles that we don't even mention on the Manabir al-Asaf. Someone should do a whole discussion on all these battles. And you'll find a lot of biographies on Amir al-Mu'mineen online, but just to give you an idea of all the events where Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was always mentioned as the messenger's vicegerent. One of the ulama, he said, I have no doubt that the Prophet had said this several, you know how he says, I believe he made this announcement in Arafah, he made it in the Mash'ar, he made it in Mina. And this was the last, what do they call it? The last, when you give something portions, what's the last, it was the last announcement. He said Ghadir was the last announcement. Even on his deathbed, he wanted to write something. It wasn't that set stage. But the difference here is when the Prophet had left Mecca, Allah at this time had warned the Prophet. And the warning of Allah is not something for you to even question. When Allah warns you, one of the greatest sins, and if you look in the top 5 greatest sins, this is one of them. Al-amnu min makrillah. For you to think you are safe from God's wrath, for you to think you are safe from God's trial. So if God warns you, be warned, because you could fall apart. So when the Prophet is warned by God, Allah Azza wa Jal says, Ya ayyuha rasul. Ya ayyuha rasul. Allah says, oh apostle, or oh messenger. He says, بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك. He's leaving Mecca and he is warned. He is told, بلغ, announce, deliver, communicate, ما أنزل إليك من ربك. What's been sent down from your Lord, communicate it, announce it. And then he's been given the warning. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. This is the messenger of God, not anyone God's talking to. He says to the Prophet, if you do not do this, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. See these 23 years that you've been preaching, the battles, the hijrah, the sermons, everything you've done is worth what? Nothing, zero. I remember one man wrote a book about Furu' ad-Din, but this guy later deviated. But at the time when he wrote the book, his title was 10 minus 1 equals 0. And it was about Furu' ad-Din. 10, the Furu', minus Wilayat Ali ibn Abi Talib equals 0. 10 minus 1 equals 0. So this is what God is telling the messenger. If you do not do this, then you've done nothing. Imagine this, nothing. And then he says, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from the people. You do what you need to do, Allah will protect you. Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. So in other words, those that reject what you're about to deliver are people without faith. And there's no innuendo, there's no, listen, there's no ambiguity, there's no, what's another word you can actually use? Yani it's not allegorical here. It's clear as crystal. And people might say, hold on, are you saying that someone that doesn't accept the wilaya? You know how we live in the world of pluralism today, where everyone tries to push everything. They'll tell you if you're not a non-Muslim, you know, they'll say, oh, the verse in the Qur'an, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَ وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. They'll use that verse and they say, see, the Christians, the Jews, the Sabians will all enter heaven. And I said, there's a shart there. Man amana minhum billah. Whoever believes of them, whoever turns back to religion of the others, this is what's referring to. Otherwise, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْ. وَهُوَ, whoever accepts other than Islam as a religion, it will not be accepted from them. So Islam is primarily the religion. If I reject once I've been told, then I disbelieve. So if I come up to you and I show you, like Rasulullah is coming up to the people and showing them the wilaya of Ali, if they reject, Allah says, Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. He didn't say, Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-muslimin. That, you know, the Muslims. But no, he said, you don't accept this, you're a disbeliever. How did he do this is very important. It's not like he said, see this guy, yep, he's the next guy in charge. You know? He goes over. It's like, you know, when I'm about to go out and you're going to leave the kids, what I do to make sure they heard what I said. This is something that I learnt from Sun Tzu's Art of War. That, yeah, you have to sometimes do things military style. That the commandments must be clear. Because if the commandments are clear, then who's at fault? The soldier. But if the commandments aren't clear, then the commander's at fault. So what I do is I make my kids repeat what I just said. Then I make them explain what I just said. So that gives them what? That makes sure that when the wrath comes down, I can, you know, execute the punishment with extreme prejudice. Why? Because it's clear what I have said to them. So when the Prophet begins, he says to them, who am I? So no one says, yeah, I saw you last week at the store. No. They said, Anta Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Wa anta Rasulullah. You are Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. You are the messenger of God. Is this true? And then they all accepted, and he did this 3 times over to make sure everyone knew who was talking. So before this, they say he had built a pulpit. They said they put the palms. There was shrubs. There was saddles, whatever, so he could be high up. Even the venue he chose. I don't know if you ever see the images. If you look it up, it's in a venue like an auditorium. The land is set in a way where it's inside a valley, So the words echo. Even the setting was perfect. Do you know what I mean? Just for this announcement. If you want to look at the place, look at the images. The setting of it was like that. So he made sure everyone knew who he was. And then he said, because God knows many years from now, you're going to get some linguist or wannabe linguist get up and try and explain what does wali or what does mawla mean and all these other things. So in a way, Ghadir turned from somehow being a friendship day. Where this is a day where the Prophet just decided to say, you know what, Ali's my friend. Really? Why downgrade him? Wasn't he your brother in Mecca and Medina? Why is he your friend now? What's with the downgrade? He was your brother before. So it made no sense. So anyway, he said to them, Alastu awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. He said, am I not awla? Do I not have the authority over the believers more than they have over themselves? I want to let you know, this isn't a repeat authority. This is the first time. Every prophet was meant to be followed. But you do not find anywhere in the Qur'an where any prophet had wilayah. Absolute wilayah. Absolute wilayah. The only time it's mentioned is for Rasulullah. Rasulullah has more authority over you and your entire family. He has more authority over every existence. Every existence, because he is Sayyid al-Kainat. He's the master of all existence. Allah Azza wa Jal has given him this position. So he said, do I not have more authority than you have over yourself? They said, Bala ya Rasulullah. The Qur'an says, An-Nabi awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. You have more authority than what we do over ourselves. And then he made the famous announcement, Man kuntu mawla, or man kuntu ana mawla. Whoever I have authority over, all these people, fahada aliyun mawla. And he said this 3 times. And the narration says he grabbed Amir al-Mu'mineen by the arm, pulled him towards him, and then one narration says he held him with one hand, the other says he held him with 2 hands. He held his hand up until all the armpits were showing. The whiteness of the armpits was showing, in other words, that it was so apparent that no one could say, who was he talking about? Was it, Ali, his next door neighbor, or Ali, his cousin, or Ali, the guy that lives down the street? Which Ali? Like with the case of the birth in the Kaaba. No one knows who was born in the Kaaba. It used to be Ali ibn Abi Talib. Every time some radio station gets up and it's, some unknown that no one's ever heard of, he's the one that was born in the Kaaba. It's not Amir al-Mu'mineen anymore. So he made sure everyone knew that it was Ali that was born, and that was Ali that is the successor. It doesn't stop there. Do you know when the Imam comes down, Rasulullah calls, who does Rasulullah call first? The narration says he calls Abu Bakr. He says, Ya Abu Bakr, get up and give allegiance, congratulate and give allegiance to Ali, as he is now the authority of the believers. He is the leader of the believers. And he makes him what? He makes him say this, that I give allegiance to you as the authority of the believers. This narration is mentioned by who? By Ali ibn Abi Talib when he comes up to Abu Bakr after they usurped the Khilafah to remind him of that day. Who does he call up second? Umar ibn al-Khattab, to do the same thing. Who does he call third? Uthman ibn Affan. So we get the drift. Rasulullah is foreshadowing what's going to take. What's about to take place once he leaves. He lets everyone see that these 3 gave allegiance. And then he calls the other companions one after the other to give allegiance, and he names them to make sure that everyone sees this. And then Allah Azza wa Jal says to his Prophet, Al-Yawma Ya'isa. He says, اليوم يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم. That on this day, the day of Ghadir, that those that have no faith, those that don't believe, he mentions ya'isa. They've despaired from your religion. Why? Because all the planning is falling apart now. Because it's evidence. You know, when someone says, but this guy's the caliph. You know, when someone says to you, this guy's the caliph. And I always love one of my favorite proverbs. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, you know. It's a proverb, you know. I don't mean anything about anyone. But, you know, you can try and put embellishments on something. It's not going to change what it is. It is what it is. You know, al-ard bi'ain ummu ghazal. You know, you might look at it in a way and try and make it something it's not. It is what it is. You can't argue the point. Rasulullah gave the Khilafah to Ali. And then he mentions, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. So your religion's now become perfected. So without Ali, the religion's imperfect, it's incomplete. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نَعْمَتِي. And the completion of the blessing upon Allah, from Allah upon mankind. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمْ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. So Allah Azza wa Jal does not approve Islam, the Islam for us without Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is the Qur'an. It's not someone say this is a da'if ruwaya. This is the Qur'an speaking about this. There was a man called Al-Harith ibn Nu'man al-Fihri. He heard about this day of Ghadir. He came to the Prophet. Because Rasulullah said, whoever's present, there was over 120,000 people, inform the ones that aren't present. So he came to the Prophet. He was from Ahl Makkah. And he says to the Prophet, what is this news I have heard about you putting your cousin in charge? He says this to the Prophet. You told us to say La ilaha illallah faqulna. So we said La ilaha illallah. Then you told us to accept that you are the messenger of God. Do you know what he says? In the hadith he says وَفِي فِي الْقَلْبِ مَا فِيهِ فَقُلْنَا. In other words, inside our heart we have this animosity towards you, but we still accepted you as a prophet. Is this Islam? In other words, if I tell you, listen, I forgive you, but inside I still have hatred towards you. What kind of a forgiveness is this? Or I believe you're the prophet of God because your argument's too sound and everything you said makes sense, still hate you. Something in there that... In other words, I haven't accepted. He said, you told us to pray, we prayed. You told us to fast, we fasted. You told us to give a khums of our money, and we did. He said, you told us to perform pilgrimage, and we did. That's the order, he says it in. And then he says, and now you're saying that we have to follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, and you put him above us. So if it was a friendship day, why was this guy saying, why have you given him authority? And then Al-Harith says to the Prophet, is this from you or from Allah? Because you know how the other school of thought say that the Prophet is a normal man and he sometimes says things out of order. You know, there's a lot of that. You know, sometimes when he doesn't know what's going on, he tries to commit suicide. So he would have used the suicide helpline if he was around today. So they have him as just an ordinary human being. So then the Messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wa alihi says it is from Allah. So Al-Harith turns around and says, oh Allah, if this is from you, then send your wrath upon me now. But if it's from him, send your wrath upon him. Look at the way he spoke. So he had tied his camel. He grabbed the bridle of the camel he was about to get on. He actually says, make it rain upon us, the wrath. They say it was a little pebble that fell from the sky, very small. And it hit him in his head, and it exited in his southernmost orifice, came out of that cavity. So it went straight through, singed through him, and he dropped dead. And this is where the verse came down. سَأَلَ سَائِلٌ بِعَذَابٍ وَاقِعٍ. The verse came upon him. That verse was put upon him in this case. That obviously the verse had been revealed before, but this is what it was revealed about this person, Al-Harith ibn al-Nu'man al-Fihri. So you always had this. And this is why you look at the Muslims today, their countries are ravaged. And the Muslims are abased. They're ravaged by war, okay? And if you notice, they hand over their natural resources so easily. Look at the Shamazel with the Hajj this year. Last night I was at a center and I said to them, how many of you, honestly ask, how many people know that the lottery that was used to get you into Hajj this year was run by a company owned by Modi, the Prime Minister of India? How many people knew this? Put up your hand if you knew this. A Hindu is running the lottery for us going in and out of Hajj. This is how abased the Muslims are today. Because of the rejection. The holy places are governed by these mobs. So this is the world we live in today. Because of the rejection of this. To finish off, I'm just going to say a small story with regard, because we're also mentioning the birth of the seventh holy Imam, Imam Kadhem alayhi salam. I want to say a story. You probably heard this story before. It's about Imam Kadhem salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, when Abu Hanifa comes to see Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and he's come to complain to Imam al-Sadiq about his son Imam al-Kadhem. He says, رأيت ابنك موسى يصلي والناس يمرون بين يديه فلا ينهاهم وفيه ما فيه. When you're praying, the other sects of Islam, you have to prevent someone from crossing in front of you. Even if the point it says to, even if you have to attack them, and cause them harm, but stop them from coming in front of you. Why? Because they're cutting off the connection. The Wi-Fi link cuts off towards Mecca when they cross out in front of you. So Abu Hanifa said, I saw your son Musa ibn Ja'far praying, and he wasn't preventing people from crossing in front of him. So Imam al-Sadiq says, he says, Ud'u li Musa. He says to his servants, call Musa over to me, Imam al-Kadhem. فدعي, so Musa's called, Imam al-Kadhem alayhi salam is called to Imam al-Sadiq. فقال له, so then Imam al-Sadiq said, explain yourself. يا بني إن أبا حنيفة يذكر أنك كنت تصلي والناس يمرون بين يديك فلم تنههم. That he has complained about you, that people were crossing out in front of you while you're praying, and you wouldn't prevent them, As Pauline would say, please explain, We need to explain this situation, what's going on here. So Imam al-Kadhem says, Na'am ya Aba. Yes, O father. Inna alladhi kuntu usalli lahu kana aqraba ilayya minhum. He said, yes, the one I was praying to is closer to me than they are. He says, يقول الله عز وجل ونحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد. That Allah says in the Qur'an, we are closer to him, to us, than what? Than our jugular vein. Allah is closer to us. So this cutting off the connection, it doesn't exist. Ma Allah is closer to you. فَإِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. So when the soul is about to exit the body, Allah Azza wa Jal offers a challenge in this verse. He says, we are nearing. فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَلُومِينَ فَارْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So you try and return the soul when it's coming out. We are closer than this. Allah Azza wa Jal is that near. To who? To the individual. So the Imam, as a child, would respond to one of the giants of the scholars of the other sects in a simple response using the Holy Qur'an. This is the importance of Ghadeer, my dear brothers and sisters. See, with Ahl al-Bayt alayhum as-salam, we respond to people with wisdom. They make you, people like us, we look intelligent because of Ahl al-Bayt. We use their words and automatically you listen to. Because their words are the most correct. Their words make the most sense. Their words do not conflict or contradict the words of God. So if I reject the Imam and the Imama, then I'm left with the riffraff. I'm left with whatever I can scrape off the floor and call it a religion. Just like all these religions have their fabricated ways that aren't what Allah Azza wa Jal had mentioned. They're pieces that have been taken, but they don't have the complete subject. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the remainder of this succession, hasten His reappearance. Baqiyatullah al-A'zam al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan arwahuna fidah. Hasten His reappearance and grant us the opportunity to serve Him and to stand beneath His standard and to be martyred by His side. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه موتانا جميعا ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, inshallah, before we head outside for some refreshments and things, we have some anasheed and some poetry. Hajj Abu Ahmad, can I ask Hajj Abu Ahmad for the poetry, for the anasheed, please? Please welcome him with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتني باللبن لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي هو غذتني باللبن فكان لي أبا يهوى أبا حسن فصرت من ذا وذي أهوى أبا حسن صلوات صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سلطان منبر أولياء پایه‌گذار منبر سلونی ابن عم نبی مظهر العجائب زوج البتول رد قبول خير المؤمنين أول المتقين أعبد العابدين أزهد الزاهدين زين الموحدين أرباب العالمين راه رو أهل يقين حبل الله المتين لنگر آسمان و زمين مولى الموحدين أمير المؤمنين قسيم الجنة والنار نعمة الله على الأبرار نقمة على الكفار فيه خير عظيم دوای هر درد شهاب الثاقب نور العاقب مبيد الكتائب صاحب السوابق فارس المؤمنين قائد الغر المحجلين صهر الرسول زوج البتول أبا الحسن أبا الحسين أبا الحسنين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. ألا حدثوني حديث العبادة ألا حدثوني حديث العبادة عن المرتضى فهو سر السعادة ألا حدثوني حديث العبادة عن المرتضى فهو سر السعادة كثيرا عن المرتضى اسمعوني كثيرا عن المرتضى اسمعوني كراماته فضله وانفراده فليس كذكر علي كلام فليس كذكر علي كلام أعلقه فوق جيدي قلاد وأعجبني في حياتي سلوكا وأحفظه حكما مستفادا فإني أحب حديث علي وأطمع في حبه في ازدياده فيا حبذا مجلس في علي فيا حبذا مجلس في علي يعلمني الحياة والإرادة ويا حبذا منبر لعلي ويا حبذا منبر لعلي مشى مثلما تتمشى القيادة ويا حبذا مسجد من علي كي تعلم كيف تكون الشهادة ويا حبذا الحب حين يكون كسهم الرماء للحبيب في فؤاده فحين يصيب وحين يخيب ويخطأ القوس غرام مراده وما حيدر قد رمى إذ رمى قد رمى رمى الله قلبي بسهم فصاده فيا حبذا سهمه في الحشاء، ويا حبذا سهمه في الحشاء، يحبس لكل عشيق وداده. ويا حبذا شاعر لعلي إذ صاغ شعرا به فأجاده، وشنفس مع الزمان قصيدا، وقالوا أعده لنا فأعاده، وقالوا أعده وظل يعيد، وقالوا أعده وظل يعيد مرارا بلا كلل أو هواده. وليس لأن الكلام جميل، ولكن ذكر علي عباده. صلوات. اللهم صل على علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، إيه علي علي مولى. أكثر من 100 شخص بالقاعة. إذا صوتكم يوصل للنجف هاي يعني حجة خلي صاحب الزمان يسمع صوتك ويوصل للنجف. وكلكم حافظين هاي القصيدة. It's very easy to repeat it. Please repeat it. ذكر علي عبادة. Not for me, for yourself. ذكر علي عبادة. علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، يا علي علي مولى، يا علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي 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 مولاي. حب لا علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي حب علي فوز الشيعي غدا، حب علي فوز الشيعي غدا. فامدد لي في يوم حسابي يدا، إن صلاتي ثم صيامي إذا، إن صلاتي ثم صيامي إذا لم يشفع لي حيدر صار السدى. علي علي مولى، علي 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 مولاي، لمولى علي. يشهد ربي أن روحي له، يشهد ربي أن روحي له، حبا دوما قلبي فيه شدا. صهر الهادي أنت مرادي، صهر الهادي أنت مرادي. علي 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 مولى، علي علي مولى، لا علي 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 مولاي، ولا علي علي مولاي، علي 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 مولاي، علي علي مولاي، علي علي مولاي، علي علي هما يا رحمن. علي 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 هما يا رحمن. تو چه آیتی خدا را که به ما زو بکندی، همه سایه همارا. دل اگر خدا شناسی همه در رخ علی بین، دل اگر خدا شناسی همه در رخ علی بین به علی شناختم من به خدا قسم خدا را علی علی مولا علی 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 مولا علی علی مولاي علي 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 مولاي علي أميري علي ونعم الأمير ولي علي ونعم الولي صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Hassan, thank you very much. What a beautiful anashid and recitation to bless this gathering. Now we have one of our young sisters who's going to recite some poetry. If I can get a hand up for Manessa, wherever Manessa is. Somewhere, perhaps, ready? She's there? Okay, do you want to come on up? Is somebody bringing you, want to come up? Yeah, whenever you're ready. Now would be good. Are you ready now? Okay, great. Sit or stand? Stand? Let's just get this so that we get some good sound.
Salawat. This way. Oh. I begin in my Lord's name, and without feeling guilt or shame, raise my voice in his praise, in remembrance of his days. Best of all days held dear is the blessed day of Ghadeer, and read this poem to celebrate this joyous moment to stay. No other day is more renowned. Ali was in the heavens crowned, chosen by God to succeed the Holy Prophet and to lead. It's a day when believers rejoice God's wisdom and his noble choice to appoint his righteous, just Imam for the sake of Muslims and Islam. When the Prophet in the scorching heat waited for all the Muslims to meet, in Ghadeer that it will be shown who will succeed him and be known. Whoever takes me as his master without Ali will face disaster. God's religion is now complete, and his favor will be your treat. The hypocrites will quicken their frowning at Ali's illusionist crowning. Why this delay, why all this fuss? Isn't Ali just one of us? I ask in return where they have been. Do they know Ali? Have they not seen? He was the foremost in faith and deeds, tending to all the Prophet's needs. He understood Islam as it should be. From sin and vice, he should be free. Without him, Islam's message is lost. Our prosperity will be the cost. With these words I mark my stand and place my hand in Ali's hand. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.